Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this overview on selling with heart, soul, and humanity. I'm your host, Martin Schmallenbach. The information and any products, processes, tools, or aids you will be exposed to in this presentation are intended for educational purposes only and are subject to change without notice. No warranty, expressed or implied, is made or granted. The results and outcomes that may be described in this presentation are anecdotal and may not be representative or indicative of results you may or may not get from making use of the information contained herein, for any purpose express or implied. Your mileage may vary. The material contained herein is copyright Martin Schmallenbach or M.R. Schmallenbach Research LLC, except and unless otherwise stated. All rights reserved. Conventional sales approaches aren't enough by themselves, not anymore, and it's getting worse every year. They are overly focused on skills, tools, and winning the sale. And the way people buy has changed. They see less value in working with a conventional salesperson. Sales, selling, and sellers have a bad image, and it doesn't have to be this way. A mindset shift is needed that puts the co-creation of value with client and prospect at the heart of everything. And it's proven to deliver better outcomes for everybody. So that's it. That's it. If that's all you need right now, then save yourselves the rest of this presentation and be about your business and let me know how I can help and let me know how you get on. Still here? Fantastic. So I'm going to take a little bit more of a deeper dive into selling with heart, soul, and humanity to give you a sense of what the philosophy is, how it came about, and what it can mean in practice, whether you are a large corporate listed on the stock market or a person thinking about starting a business up in their front room. Selling with heart, soul, and humanity. What does that even mean? Well, it's a good question. So let's take it apart word by word. For me, when I was thinking of the word heart here, I'm thinking about purpose and resolve. What is the purpose that you have? What is your resolve as you set about selling with heart, soul, and humanity? I think it's also about tenacity and spirit, about being able to get through the tougher times as well as the easy times. And so there's a connection there also with passion. This must be something you are passionate about, almost to the point where it hurts when you're not able to do what you do with heart, soul, and humanity. And so it's also about enthusiasm. What do I mean by soul? Well, it's definitely about inner spirit, inner being and spirit and life force. It's about your individuality. It's about the core of who you are as a person. It's about your essence. Heart is about why you're doing what you're doing. And soul is more about how you do what you do. And then that last piece, that last word, humanity, for me it started with humankind. It's one word when it's written down, but for me it's kind of two. There's human and kind. Human and kind. So for me, it's also about compassion and kindness. It's about benevolence. And I don't mean that in a business you have to give everything away for free and so on and so forth. But it's about making a difference in what you do and how you do it. It's about making a difference for your customers. It's about making a difference for your family and your community and the world at large. So there's a benevolence there, and an empathy, an understanding what's going on for your client or your prospect. Being able to stand at least a little bit in their shoes, understand what it is that they're trying to achieve. So what problems they're trying to fix, what problems they're trying to avoid in the future, what opportunities and goals are they looking to achieve and make best use of right now. So for me, that's what selling with heart, soul, and humanity is really about. So I believe that whatever it is you decide to do, you should do it with all your heart and soul. Because with passion, we can create amazing things. We can offer true value, help others, be happy, productive, and successful. And without it, we have average results. We're not focused on our current activity. We get demotivated. We lose confidence. We don't really believe in or care about what we do. And that's when our family, our community, or even the world can lose out. And it doesn't have to be that way. What selling with heart, soul, and humanity is not is long hours, giving away stuff for little or no return, feeling guilty about making money. Selling with heart, soul, and humanity is then about passion. It's about creating value. It's about making a difference. It's also about making money. But what is different is why you are out to make money and how you go about doing so. And it's for everybody, whether you are the largest corporate organization on the planet or a one-person operation that's just started up in your front room. This is for everybody. Do you want to sell to people, or do you want them to buy from you? Because there's a subtle but significant difference between the two. Certainly for me, do you want to sell to people suggests me, the seller, trying to convince the buyer to buy my stuff and to part with their cash and give it to me. Wanting them to buy from you is a very different relationship. That's where the relationship between you as buyer and seller is such, and I mean it in a positive sense, that they see value in what you have and they see value in working with you. And so they want to buy from you. So what that means in practice with selling with heart, soul, and humanity is it tends to be easier and quicker to close business. There are significantly fewer objections. The client tends to be a lot more satisfied. And they're also less price sensitive, meaning that they're less likely to push you on getting a discount or giving you freebies because they see the value in what you have to offer and they see the value in working with you. And you tend to stand out better from the crowd. You tend to stand out better from your competition because you're operating differently. You're operating with heart, soul, and humanity, and you're focused first and foremost on the client or the prospect. I've made some assumptions about why you are here. You don't have time to waste. You don't have money to waste. And you're kind of done wasting your energy on things that don't get you where you need to be. I get that. You're going to have some questions and concerns, such as some of these, who's my target audience? How do I know? Where do I find them? How do I stand out from the competition? How do I get prospects interested in my stuff? How do I initiate contact? How do I avoid discounting or giving stuff away for free? How do I deal with objections? And so on and so forth. I get that. And there are great answers to your questions and concerns. And no, you do not have to sell your soul to the devil in order to get the outcomes you need and the answers you need to enable you to launch your new business or take your existing business forward to greater and sustained success. Let me give you some background about how this all came about. I'd started my own business several times and failed each time. Why? Because I didn't know how to sell. Not without giving big discounts and throwing in lots of extras for free. I was kind of desperate to close any kind of business I could, and it was killing me inside. I began to resent my clients for taking advantage of me and myself for putting myself in that position. And I also saw salespeople and selling as unethical, as evil even, and about scamming the customer and being all about the sale, even if it meant the customer didn't get the best or appropriate solution, so long as the salesperson got the sale and their commission check. After all, caveat emptor, as they say in Latin, buyer beware. So for the longest time, I didn't see salespeople or selling in a good light at all. And later, I worked as a process and organizational improvement consultant with a highly respected consultancy with relatively high fees. I was talking with key influencers and decision makers all the time, finding out about their challenges and helping them overcome them, and being well paid for it too. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was selling, not me and my stuff, but ideas on how my clients could solve their problems. So it was more about them than it was about me and my stuff. It didn't feel like selling, and to my clients, it didn't look like or sound like selling. It looked and felt more like a business partner helping them improve their business. And some clients would even pay me to fly across the country from my office to theirs to help them figure out what problems they had and how to start tackling them. Can you imagine that? Getting not just your airfare paid, but also your hourly rate, your daily rate. Fantastic. I was being invited by them and paid by them to sell to them. That's value. That's when somebody perceives value in you and what you do and how you do it, rather than the stuff that you have to offer. I was working with a large tech company in 2009 that had decided that it needed to rethink the way that it sold and the way it engaged with its clients. And driving this was a belief this would be a significant differentiator, given that its products and services were not unique and they were not enough of a differentiator by themselves. We explored many options. We brought together and integrated many ideas. We tested them in real situations, and we continuously improved them. And here's what we ended up with. I'm just going to show you two things fairly quickly because I don't want you to dwell on the details. Here's the first bit. This is kind of a get everything we could onto one page, all the main aspects of the approach that we came up with. And then we simplified it a little bit into really just having a conversation. The response we got from the field was this, right? It's scary, right? So people were saying, it's too much, it's too complex, it's too complicated. And that was a bit of a shock because these are smart people. These are people with degrees in engineering, postgraduate degrees in physics and maths and all kinds of smart boy, smart girl stuff. So I was shocked that this was their reaction. But when I sat down and had some conversations with them to find out what was going on, what they actually told me was, look, it's not that we don't get it. It's not that we're dumb. It's not that we're not intelligent, but we're incredibly busy doing our day jobs. We're incredibly busy with the rest of our lives, and we don't have time to figure out how to make this work in detail. It's just too much. It's just overload. And I have to say, they kind of have a point. So from that, we had an insight. Actually, we had three insights. The first was that we just need to keep it simple. Those of you out in the field, keep calm, and we're going to keep it simple. So that was insight number one. Insight number two was it's just about having a conversation. It's about having a conversation with the client about what matters to them as well as us. And so that led us to the third insight, which is that you really have to put the customer at the heart of your approach in terms of your thinking. You're thinking about them first rather than winning the sale and getting the commission check. We ended up with this. Have a two-way conversation with the customer or the prospect about what matters to them, ... and us. And that ... and us bit is important because what's implicit in that is that the customer is mentioned first. The customer or the prospect, the client or the prospect is mentioned first. They are the focus of what this is about. But at the end of the day, it's a conversation. We have some assumptions about what's going on for them, but they may have changed their mind. There may be things we don't know about their business and so on and so forth. So have a conversation, two-way conversation, as opposed to turning up, here's my stuff, here's my portfolio, here's my product catalog, here's a website, let me tell you about our stuff. That's not really what buyers are particularly interested in. Some breaking news as well. Conventional sales approaches are no longer enough. Period. Okay? Period. And the evidence is pretty clear. Conventional sales approaches alone are just not working well enough to sustain businesses in the longer term. So based on this, the four following premises really underpin the approach that we're exploring today. So the first premise, conventional sales methods don't work. To be more accurate, since 2011-2012, the number of salespeople who are achieving their sales targets or quotas has been falling. It's becoming harder and harder to reach targets, even in a growing economy. Even as GDP grew, which is the orange line you can see here heading up towards the top right corner, even as GDP grew, sales success fell. That's the blue line. So in the US, over this period of time from 2011-2012, GDP grew just about 16%. But the number of people, the proportion of salespeople achieving their targets fell from 63% to just about 50%. The second premise, conventional selling doesn't create real value. Conventional selling doesn't bring or create enough value for prospects and clients. Sure, it brings undifferentiated value, which is inherent in the products and services being offered. And, similar products and services are available from more than one vendor. So buying a drill bit, that enables you to create a hole in a piece of wood or in a wall, for example. So that has some value, but the bigger value is in what that hole in that piece of wood or in that wall enables you to do. Maybe it enables you to hang a family heirloom that's very important to your wife or your husband, and that makes them feel a whole lot better about the house or that room or something. So it's not about the drill bit, and it's not about the hole. It's about what those two things enable you to have or to get. So like I said, there's some value in your stuff, in your products and services, but it's tiny compared to the overall value that the client or your prospect is looking to get from having or using that product or service. And it's in this last aspect that the real value is to be found. Prospects and clients are usually left with just price and delivery to help them select the solution and the vendor they will buy from. Premise number 3. Ongoing research from 2008 has confirmed what prospects and clients want and need in a salesperson if they are to drop the negative impressions that they have of salespeople. So the first aspect of this is they're looking for somebody who can help them get clear about their true current situation, what I call their point A, and the potential alternatives and better situations open to them, what I call their point B. And actually, there may be several point Bs, several alternatives open to a client or a prospect. So it's point A is where they're at right now, and point B are these alternatives, these better options. They're also looking for somebody who can help them navigate the options. So out of these point Bs that are available to you, the client or the prospect, I can help you figure out which one of those point Bs is the one that you want to go with. And figure out what is the best way to get from point A to point B. So it's helping you navigate your options, your different point Bs, and helping you avoid the pitfalls as the client or the prospect makes your journey from point A to point B. And then finally, somebody who can help the client, help the prospect as they make that shift. So in moving from point A to their chosen point B, what is the best path, and how can I help them make that journey as quickly as possible, as cheaply as possible, and with the smallest amount of risk that's possible? That's ideally what a client or a prospect is going to be really interested in. And then the fourth premise is that conventional sales approaches focus on bringing value to or creating value for the prospect or a client. And in this sense, the client or the prospect is more of a passive player in this process. But this approach, this mindset it represents, like I said, it's not wrong. It's just not enough, not anymore. So to fully appreciate the significance of this, we have to unpack what we mean by value, because as I found the hard way, it's not quite what you and many others may think it is. So let me give you a sense of the direction we're headed in with value. Price is what you pay. Value is what you get. Who pays? Who pays? Well, the client does. The prospect does. Who gets the value? Well, the client does. The prospect does. Okay, sure. You get some value too. Obviously, you're looking to get paid for helping client. So sure, you should get some value too, but the client cares less about that and more about the value that they can get. It's nothing personal. It might feel that way a little bit. I get that, but it's not. So who decides what value is? The client does, the prospect does, period. Now, I know some of you may be thinking, well, hang on, what about my marketing team? What about me? I'm part of a franchise operation, and they are telling me what customers value. They are telling me what prospects value. It doesn't really matter much what they say or think, because it's also the case that value is not defined by your products and services. There's some value in them for sure, but there's more to it than that, as we've seen earlier. So yes, these are what you sell, but that's not really why the client buys them. I've got a picture here of an orange. Two people may look at this orange and value it differently. One person is interested in the orange peel, in the zest that's in there, because they want that for making a cake. Somebody else might want the flesh, the juice. They want to get orange juice. When I shared this with a colleague, she was saying that she loves, as I do, orange juice with extra pulp in it, with a high pulp content. Her husband, Tim, doesn't like any floaties, as she calls it, in his orange juice. So she buys the pulp-free orange juice, even though she loves the high pulp orange juice, because it's important to her that Tim gets what he needs, gets what he wants and likes, and frankly isn't complaining to her in a loud voice about there being floaties in his orange juice. So it's about what those products and services enable the client or the prospect to fix, achieve, and or avoid. So in Courtney's case, she's looking to avoid her husband complaining. She's looking to achieve in her husband some better state of happiness about the orange juice. Sounds trivial, but I think you get the way this works. We can put all of this into an equation, what I call the value equation. So the total value that somebody can get over the longer term is made up of the total benefits they get over the longer term, less the total costs over the longer term. What do I reference here, longer term? Simple. Imagine going on a vacation. You're going to go on a family vacation in 3 or 4 months' time, and you're going to go overseas. It's a big deal. You're going to be gone for a couple of weeks, and it's going to cost thousands of dollars. Okay. Today, you're going to go and book that, and you're going to pay for it up front because that guarantees the price, because prices for flights and so on can go up, for example. So you're paying for it today, but you don't get the benefit of that for at least another 3 or 4 months, not until you actually go on the vacation. So if you were to look at things in a narrow period of time, just in the short term, the value you would get would be negative because there's basically no benefits and it's all costs up until now. But looking at it on the other side of the vacation, you've had a fantastic vacation with the family, really relaxed, got some great memories. I mean, that's almost priceless. That's almost without value. It's so much. So at that point in time, in this wider period of time that you look at, the value is off the charts. It's massive. You've got huge benefits, less the costs. And I know I said thousands of dollars, but in comparison to the memories that you had and the great time that you had, you know, it's tiny compared to the benefits. So notice how price is not visible in the equation. There are several elements that go to make up total costs, and price is simply one part of that costs. Because, for example, when you're on that vacation, you're away with the family for 2 weeks. That means you're not somewhere else doing something else. Maybe it means that you're not home doing yard work and saving yourself money because you've not had to pay for a contractor to come in and do it. So there is always an opportunity cost. If you're doing X, you can't be doing Z. And which is more important to you? Which is of more value to you, doing X or doing Z? In the context of talking about bringing value to clients and creating value for the clients, which are terms I hear salespeople use all the time, I have a question for you. If the client is the only person who can truly define what value is, then how can you bring it to them? How can you create it for them if they're not intimately involved in defining and creating it? And the short answer is you can't. So we're not talking about selling, not in the conventional sense. We're talking instead about helping them solve a problem, partnering with them. And so I want to just take this time now to compare and contrast conventional selling with selling with heart, soul, and humanity. So from the conventional perspective, it's all about me, the seller, and my stuff. I'm going to come to you and I'm going to say, look, I'm going to in your area next week. I can stop by and I can show you our latest catalog of products. And then you can take a look at which ones would best suit your circumstances right now. Selling with heart, soul, and humanity takes a different attack. It's all about you, the client, you, the prospect, and getting you to your better place. So we're going to figure out what your point A is and get you to your best point B, the most appropriate point B for you as quickly as possible. It's all about my stuff. It's all about my offering in the conventional selling side of things. Selling with heart, soul, and humanity. We co-create the solution together. I don't know your business or I don't know your personal circumstances well enough to propose a solution that best suits you and to do that all by myself. This is something we have to engage in together and create together. I have experiences and capabilities that you don't have and couldn't have alone. You have your unique situation and history and the desired outcomes that you're looking to reach. So put those two together and we're going to come up with a better solution for you that's likely to be less total cost, likely to be less risky than any other solution you'd get, whether it was from a competitor of mine or if you were doing things by yourself. Selling with heart, soul, and humanity, I bring all of my capabilities, all of my culture, my philosophy, my policies even. I bring that to bear and use it to create with you the right solution. So conventional selling tends to be about process and tools more than anything else. Selling with heart, soul, and humanity, of course it has tools, of course it has processes, but it's really at the heart of all of this, it's about a two-way conversation between me and you, between the client, the prospect, and the seller, about what matters to them as well as me. Conventional selling seems to be about controlling the direction of the interaction. I need to control the flow of the conversation and manipulate things so that we get to talk about my products and my services. This is where I'm able to say, I'm glad you mentioned that, Mrs. Customer. I'm glad you mentioned that, Mrs. Prospect, because I've got just the tool for you. I've got just the solution for that problem you have. Selling with heart, soul, and humanity takes a different tag. The conversation goes where the client or the prospect needs it to go, because that's what's of value to them. So my role then is to help you get clear about where you're at, your point A, and help you have that conversation and help you figure out what are your best point Bs, what are your best options, because maybe your best option is to stay where you are. So I'll help you and I'll drive momentum in this process, and I'll drive momentum in the engagement. What do I mean by that? I'm helping you, the client or the prospect, get through that conversation and get through that decision-making process to figure out what your point A is and your best point B and how to get there. I'll drive you through that process as quickly as I can, because that's what you want. You don't want to take your time over this. You probably don't have a lot of time. If now is the time to act, then now is the time to act, and let's get it done as quickly as possible, because that's what's best for you, and it's actually also what's good for me. Conventional selling can sometimes feel like this, where the seller is looking to shift profit from the buyer to themselves. And how might they do this? Well, it's also about shifting risk. I'm going to shift the risk from me, the seller, to you, the buyer. It's caveat emptor. It's buyer beware. You know, once we've made the transaction, once you've bought this stuff from me, I'm kind of out of here. And if you want some additional service, it's going to cost you extra. Selling with heart, soul, and humanity takes things differently. It takes the view, we're in this together. Your goals and my goals are aligned. I want you to get through your decision-making process and get to the right outcome, an outcome that you're satisfied with. I want you to get to that as quickly as possible, because it means that I'm going to get paid sooner, and that's great from your point of view. So in that sense, our goals are absolutely aligned. The conventional selling approach is about solutions for you. I have a standardized set of solutions because that's the most efficient way for me to operate my business. It's kind of cookie cutter style. You know, I can cut them out. They all look the same. I'll do some customizing for you, maybe, but boy, it's going to cost you, because in customizing things, that impacts my efficiency potentially as a business. You know, and there's some added risk to that. So if I'm going to do that, you're going to pay for it. Selling with heart, soul, and humanity takes a different approach. It's about creating solutions with you. It's about creating value with you, not for you, not something I bring to you, but it's something we do together with you, with each other. So the solution is then organic and personalized. It's absolutely tied to what's going on for you, for your particular point A and your particular point B, and the pathway you take to get there. So you're always going to end up with the solution that you need. It's always going to be personalized and tailored. But you know what? It's going to be right for everyone, because it's what you really want. The risk of blowback, the risk of fallout, as it were, is much less. And because it's what you want and need, and you see the value in it, you're quite happy to pay for it. So this issue about price challenges, profit issues, and risk issues really goes away. So there are many good approaches to training sales. I've been trained in most of them, certified as a trainer in many of the main ones, and they're well put together, they're professionally delivered, and they're full of goodness. But, and there's always a but, they're focused on skills and tools. I've already alluded to this. These are things that are very visible and that people can get to grips with quickly. And people like that as users, as people going on the training, and as people paying for the training. So all good. But like I said, it's rooted in a conventional sales mindset. And I've learned the hard way that if you don't address the mindset, then all the training and skills and tools is mostly wasted, no matter how well intentioned and how well delivered. So fundamentally today, selling with heart, soul, and humanity is about a new mindset, a different mindset. Because to be better, to have better, something has to also be different. And my experience mirrors the research that you already have 85 to 90% of the skills and tools needed for this different approach to selling. I mean, having a conversation. We've been doing that since we were 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. Been doing it all our lives. We just need to take some additional steps to focus on what we're going to have the conversation about, who we're going to have that conversation with, and where that conversation ends up, and what kind of actions it drives. It's about how these 85 to 90% of skills that you already have are used and when they're used. And the other 10 or 15% that you don't have, well, the good news is they're easily acquired and they're easy to use once you adopt the new mindset. So I like to think of success in this sense. It's about mindset plus skill set plus tool set. Now, a lot of the skill set and tool set things are already taken care of. You have to take care of the mindset, put in place the right mindset if these are to make any difference at all. If you're looking for a different level of success, given that most of the skills and tools that are needed are basically the same, then we're needing really a bit of a shift in the mindset. So, does this work? Yes, actually, it works really, really well. A lot of my experiences with large corporates, and it works really well for them. In fact, this is kind of where this whole approach began from. So one particular tech company that I've been associated with acquired one of their main competitors that had a very, very different culture and frankly was about to sink. So they bought this big competitor of theirs. Many people chose to stay on. They thought they'd give the new regime a fighting chance. Several years later, the culture of that acquired organization is now indistinguishable from the parent company that bought them. And that parent company operates with heart, soul, and humanity. And it really does its level best to sell with heart, soul, and humanity. What's the difference? What are the results? Well, that acquisition is on the verge of paying for itself just in a few short years. And we're talking billions of dollars here. Their customers like it. Their customers are re-energized. Their customers being the customers of the acquired company. So we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars just in a few years, if not billions. Now, for a small one-person home-based business, you might be thinking, oh, I get the corporate thing, but how does it help me? I'm just a one-person business, or I'm just about to start a one-person business. So let me tell you about this lady that I was coaching. She sells Lularoe leggings for women. You may be familiar with those. And she came to me with a struggle that we all recognize, which is that she had massive competition. Where she lived, she was one of at least 21 people selling these same branded leggings and struggling to make it a viable business. And I asked her, why did she get into business generally? And why did she get into this business specifically? So we just had a conversation. And what she told me was this. She has a medical condition that can flare up. And when it does, it can cause severe skin sensitivity. So almost anything that touches her skin can be painful. And she found that the Lularoe leggings were the most comfortable thing to wear when this happens for her. And she wanted to help others with similar kind of chronic pain conditions. So she wasn't in the business of selling leggings. That's not why she went into business. And her target clients weren't looking to buy leggings either. They were looking to get some help with their chronic pain conditions. So I asked her if men suffered from similar conditions, and she said, yeah, they did actually. And it turns out from this conversation that we had, I learned that she's pretty knowledgeable about chronic pain and sensitive skin. So I told her what I was hearing, that she wasn't just another Lularoe seller, but she's the lady that helps anybody with these conditions. So that doubled her market like overnight. So it was just women, and now it's women and men. And it enabled her to expand her offerings to include other aids and treatments for chronic pain and sensitive skin. So she was no longer in competition with these 20 other sellers of the Lularoe leggings for women, but instead she was the only person in her city helping anybody with chronic pain and sensitive skin. She just happened to have Lularoe leggings and other items from them in her portfolio. So what she was doing was leading to her products and services rather than with them. And that is a different way of thinking. And for her, she came to me for that coaching session feeling somewhat dejected and kind of without hope. And at the end of that conversation, she was kind of bouncing with energy. She couldn't wait to get back to it all because she could see, yeah, I am different. I do stand out, and what I'm doing is worthy, and how I'm doing it is the right way to do it. So she was able then to go back out with this new mindset and sell with heart, soul, and humanity. I want to talk a little bit about empathy and about understanding. Selling with heart, soul, and humanity often starts with enabling the client to see their situation in a different light and from a different perspective. I talked earlier about helping the client understand their point A. What is going on for them right now? Not just the things they can see and not just the things they suspect, but what is actually going on right now? Because sometimes that alone can help them begin to shift because they had an incomplete or an erroneous understanding of what their circumstances were. Here we might have the client who they're at their point A, how things are today, and they are seeing how things are. They are seeing what is. There's a point B. There's an alternative option for them. So this is a picture of what could be. So we're enabling them to see something important to them and their business or other situation from more than one perspective. So So for them, they see their point A, and the current value of how they see things right now is 6, for example. But what I'm seeing as a seller, as someone who's engaging with them, selling with, looking to sell with heart, soul, and humanity, I see an alternative situation. I see an opportunity for change to move from their current situation, point A, to a different one, a point B. So I'm seeing what is possible. I'm seeing the potential. I'm seeing what could be. And it looks like the potential value for the client or the prospect here is a 9. And, 6 is better than 9. So what we're really looking to have is the opportunity to enable the client to make a more informed decision about their point A and their awareness of point B and whether to move from point A to point B. We're looking for them to see new opportunities, new potential, and to make a decision as to whether to move into that new potential, that new opportunity, that new possibility or not. So we're enabling to see opportunities and reasons to change that perhaps they wouldn't see or appreciate fully without some help from someone like me, someone like you. So at the heart of it all, it's just to have a two-way conversation with the client or the prospect about what matters to them and you. So I just want us to be clear what we mean by these words. I talk about conversation. It's an exchange of ideas between two or more people. It is not a one-way flow of information, especially about your products and services. What matters? Well, these are the things that they care about. These are the things that address their wants and needs, both in a business or results perspective, as well as personal. So it's about their desired outcome. It's about the things they're trying to fix, achieve, and or avoid. It's about what solution they're looking for and why they need or want that solution. And that last piece, that why they want and need that solution, particularly from a personal perspective, that is often overlooked by the conventional sales approach. And then them, I keep referring to them, but really you talk to people, not organizations. Yes, people may be part of an organization, but it's a person-to-person thing. So who specifically are you talking to? Because different things can matter to different people. If you're talking to an organization and 2 or 3 people are involved in the decision-making or influence the decision-making process, then each of those 2 or 3 people are going to have slightly different desired outcomes. They're going to have different reasons for supporting or not supporting a shift from point A to point B. How do we do this in practice? Well, it's just about a conversation. It's this piece here in the middle, okay? The rest of it really is about how do we plan for and set up that conversation, that meeting, in such a way that the client invites us to have that conversation, that they want to have the rest of the conversation with us. And then at the end of that conversation, what actions are going to be taken? Who's going to commit to what? And then afterwards, there's some kind of review process where you learn how well things went. It's part of continuous improvement. Improving your craft as a person who sells with heart, soul, and humanity, and also improving your understanding of their situation and their desired outcomes, which you're then able to update your plans and strategies for the next conversation you're going to have. There are 3 kind of phases to this. So you're going to see here there's a planning element. So planning takes place, planning and preparation. Then there's the actual doing of having the conversation, of asking for commitments and agreeing to commitments and helping each other move forward. And then there's a review process at the end. This plan, do, review mantra, I think, is one to have locked away, running constantly in your head. I spent a lot of time in a former life in the aviation world, first in the military and then in civilian aviation. And, great pilots, great air crew, great cabin crew, whether it's military or civilian, are constantly planning before they get into the doing, and they're always reviewing what's happened. And what I've seen in conventional sales is there's a massive focus on do. Almost no reviewing gets done, and the planning that gets done is very formulaic and frankly focused on the wrong stuff. It's about having a two-way conversation, and I want you to think in terms of a recipe. There's a list of ingredients. There are instructions on what to do with the ingredients. Individual ingredients no longer visible in the finished item. We have here a wedding cake. You can't see there the individual grains of ground sugar that went in to make up the icing or the frosting. You can't see the currants and other pieces of dried fruit that are in the fruit cake that's underneath all of that frosting or icing. But they're there, and they are an important part of the finished article. You have to make and then maintain contact with your prospect, with your client. So I think this is probably the most important step, because if nothing else changes, if you get better at this, you're going to have more conversations with people. And that's actually going to drive your business results in the right direction. I've seen this happen time and again all over the world, in the West, in North America, in Europe, Western Europe, Central Europe, Eastern Europe, and in China, mainland China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Singapore, Thailand, you name it. And I call it CURT. It's the client's urgent reason to talk with you. They need a reason to spend even 30 seconds, even 20 seconds with you. They're incredibly busy running their business, running their lives. You've got to give them reason to spend time with you. So this is typically a short, highly focused message, under 30 seconds ideally, and the best ones I've seen, no matter the language, have been in under 20 seconds. So this short message that gets them, the client or the prospect, curious, and it's so compelling that it has them moving to reply to you almost immediately. I had a really good one come to me some years ago. I was halfway through reading, it was an email. I was halfway through reading it when I said, you know what, I just have to talk to this person right now. So I never finished the end of the email. I hit reply, and I was arranging a conversation with that person for later that day. So it's got to be compelling. It's got to move them to action right away. So you can deliver this by email, you can deliver it by voicemail, you can deliver it in person, over the phone, face to face. Ideally, kind of plan for all three. You do it in 2 steps. So the first part of it comes in the planning, what you're going to say and how you're going to say it. And so this draws on the earlier planning and preparation phase that you would have engaged with earlier. And then you do it. You actually deliver your message of why they should spend their valuable time with you, why they should invite you into the rest of the conversation. So there's a planning aspect to CURT, and then there's a doing or delivery aspect. And similarly for what happens after the conversation is done. You know, you're going to close the conversation making requests for commitments to action. You're going to ask them to take some action that is visible to you, that does 2 things. 1, it moves them forward in their decision-making process. And 2, it's visible to you so that you can see they are moving forward with you and not with somebody else. Because that's useful information that tells you whether you should stay engaged with them or not. Are you the chosen, preferred supplier or not? Because if you're not, that's a conversation to have with them very soon that says, here's what I'm seeing. I don't think you're moving forward with us. So if that's true, if we're not your preferred choice, then let us get out of your way and let you get on with the choices that you've made. So whilst you are doing that, you have to plan for that up front. Okay, so it's part of that whole planning process. There are tools, there are job aids to help you with all of this. This is just a few of them. Don't worry, they look very colorful. They're easy to use. So there's several tools and job aids available. For every stage, every one of those boxes that you were seeing there, every one of those 10 boxes, there are tools to help you. So there are tools to help you analyze and devise strategies and plans around who the key influencers and decision makers are, what their desired outcomes are, and who is open to change and who isn't, and so on. There are tools to help you qualify your opportunities and clients so you can make better use of your limited time, money, and other resources, because not every client is going to be a great client. Not every client is going to be easy to work with. Not every client is going to bring you great returns on the investment that you make. And then finally, there are tools that will help you have two-way conversations that your prospects and clients will be truly appreciative of. So I guess we're coming full circle now. I asked you, oh gosh, about 50 minutes ago, do you want to sell to people or do you want them to buy from you? Do you want to spend energy and time trying to convince them to buy your stuff? Or do you want to have them want to buy from you? Do you want to have great conversations that really go backwards and forwards that end up with the customer, with the prospect, recognizing, wow, you could really help me. You understand what I'm trying to do. You understand my situation, and you really invested. You really, I think, genuinely, sincerely want to help me get from where I am, my point A, to a better place. That's fantastic. Please help. And you know, those conversations rarely get hung up on price. Just remember, in the end, it's just about having a two-way conversation with the client or the prospect about what matters to them, ... and you. So that's the end of this overview. Thank you for for your attention and your time. Hopefully I've given you something to think about. So good luck with that. Just give it a go. It's just about having a conversation. Put the creation of value, the co-creation of value with the customer at the center of everything you think about and consider doing with them and for them, and you won't go far wrong. It's just a conversation. And let me know how it goes. Drop me an email. Let me know how it goes. Let me know what works really well. Let me know some of the challenges that you have along the way. Share your success stories with me. And if you don't mind, I'll share them with others as I come across and spread this philosophy. Also, if you think you need a little bit of help with some aspects of putting this into practice, give me a call. I've got a ton of experience, an awful lot of experience about how not to do this. So I've learned the hard way, and I'd be very happy to share that with you. Okay, so until then, anyway, good luck.